You're listening to the Overwatch Rundown, a weekly podcast covering the latest in the esports scene of competitive Overwatch. Today is Sunday, May 20th, and we are covering Week 1 of Stage 4 of the Overwatch League. All right, Jax. Last week we had, what was it? In Blizzard We Trust Part 6.
Yeah.
Where we talked about the upcoming stage, which we've just watched. We're going to cover that, obviously, in today's podcast. But I also wanted to go through what you had here on the list, which is, let me get this right, because it's worth it. It made me laugh. Did Blizzard earn your trust? Part 1, I think. Because we haven't really had the follow-up to in Blizzard we trust. So it seems like a good point to talk about, because it was a very... it was a definite... which patch are they going to be on? We found that out, Jax, at a pretty late date, as we were discussing, and it was which patch was it, Jax?
I'm looking. The date was May 15th when Commissioner Nate Nanzer let the world know what patch was going to be played, which is odd, Uploads, because the very next day is when we had the start of Stage 4. The patch in question was 1.22. The patch that was live for the overall player base, the regular players, for 2 days. Maybe it was 3 days, depending on time zones. I have no idea. And Commissioner Nate Nanzer said that the major reason why this is the patch that followed it, 1.23. There was a bug that let me see, which inhibits the ability to accurately resume play on an escort map should a pause or disconnect occur.
So first thing I have to ask you, do you trust him in that statement that this is a replay bug issue that they're having?
There probably is a replay bug issue, Leplos. The reason why Blizzard has not earned my trust is that this patch was 3 weeks old, and you mean to tell me that a league which acquired $240 million from its investors are unable to fix a bug in 3 weeks? Now, I know people who are software developers will jump on me saying, Jax, it doesn't work like that, but I'm sorry, it does.
I'm interested to know what changed between those two patches, because neither of them seem to have an escort thing in it. So what happened that all of a sudden...
It's
that
they programming. Who knows, man?
Yeah.
You change one
Where is
thing
the
over
gremlin
here, and of course it affects everything on the other side of the world. I'm sorry. If the question is, did Blizzard earn my trust? No, they did not. I don't care what Monty and Doa and all these people played by Blizzard are trying to tell us, that you can't expect the pros to play on live patches. I don't, but I do expect it after 3 weeks. Blizzard, this multi-million-dollar company, will have figured things out. The fact that they didn't is for me, it's poor presentation from them. So they have not earned my trust.
I agree with you, Jax. I believe both of our trust has been scattered into the wind, just like Hanzo's scatter arrow remains in the game. But instead of giving us an air jump, let's go ahead and jump onto a little more intro here, Jax, into week 1. We had a lot of questions going into week 1 of Stage 4 about, and it was difficult. Let me frame it this way: we had difficulty making our predictions last week because we didn't know which patch we were in. Given the fact that knowing which patch, do you think you would revisit any of your picks going in, just in general? Do you think that would have had a play? No. we sort of danced around it.
My picks, no, because regardless of the patch Baguette was going to be in, and I think that was the bigger of the two. Yes, Hanzo and his broken storm arrows and all the other changes that they introduced with 1.23, on the live servers, play a bigger part than I think Baguette does.
Yeah.
When it comes to Overwatch League, I think the introduction of this new support hero and the meta changes she invites is ultimately what drove my picks here. I can tell you that having watched the games, I wouldn't change my picks. Now that I've seen how teams prepared for Baguette, oh, I would definitely change my picks.
I
But we're
mean,
gonna get into
that's a completely fair assessment. I think some teams definitely were better and um, prepared themselves for. That said, Baguette first Brigette's first appearance here in Overwatch League. How did you feel it went? Do you feel like she's going to be a mainstay at least for the remainder of the stage?
um. Sadly, I say sadly, but I can't really fault the teams. There doesn't seem to be a there doesn't seem to have been a high level of preparation for this hero. Um, Again, I say that while they didn't know exactly what patch was going to be played, they did know that it was going to be Baguette, and I don't think they didn't know she was going to be introduced, and I don't think they could have thought it would be the one that's being played on test server where her rally, does 100. Not sorry, does 50 less armor than it does right now. So I think the only thing that the team should have been unaware of is whether or not we'd have broken Hanzo, whether or not that was the Tracer pulse bomb patch as well, right? The 1.23 where pulse bomb went from 400 to 300, and Junkrat lost, a second off of his tire,
Yeah,
and his bombs have to be,
projectiles were
yeah, they
smaller.
have to be more direct. So those the Tracer thing is actually not minor; it's pretty big. Um, but it's just the overall team preparation for Baguette Lepelos is low. I won't say across the board because some teams have obviously incorporated her pretty well, but you look at some of these results and look at when you watch the games and your mind is just blown because some teams they've spent no time at all either developing their own Baguette strats or how to defend themselves against her.
Speaking of the week, why don't we get right into week one, stage four, Overwatch League
Right?
map or matchup number one: Gladiators versus San Francisco Shock. You took Gladiators, of course. I took Shock. Shock's,
Yeah.
up and coming.
Shields up,
In
Lepelos.
shields up. I mean, it's right off the beginning, man. Strong starting by the Gladiators. I think I'll just jump to their defense, where they managed to shut down San Francisco Shock strong
I mean,
here
to be fair,
for the 2-0.
this is the Gladiators' best map. They are undefeated. Coming into this, they were undefeated on this map, and leaving this matchup against San Francisco, they are still undefeated. It was interesting. We saw Silk Threat in place of Hydration, who we might normally see here, for his Junkrat play, for his Ginji, for the various heroes that Hydration can flex to, and it's interesting. We didn't see that much Silk Thread in stage three after once the trade deadline came. We saw him, I think, once or twice, and then he just disappeared, and you had to wonder if he was going back on the sister team like he did for the Los Angeles Valiant. But here we are at the start of the stage, and Silk Thread playing a major part. On the Blizzard World Lepelos, he played Zarya, Junkrat, and Tracer. So they're finding ways to incorporate him, and we saw Bishu play a little bit of the Baguette, answering the question as who for this team was going to play that hero.
Yeah, speaking of Silk Thread on Junkrat and Tracer, that's what he does on Horizon Lunar Colony to good effect. There on Horizon Lunar Colony, Gladiators a strong win here. 100 seconds remaining in the time bank as they capture out the third that they need on their second attack. That means San Francisco Shock able to get the overtime capture. That was a bit of a surprise, but you know what? Gladiators had that time bank advantage, came into play, and they were easily able to close this one out up to
Seeing some
0.
really good flex from the Gladiators. Sure for playing Sombra, Widow, McCree. You also have Shaz playing at various times. Sometimes like this May here is just for the stall, right? But Shaz playing Zen, Sombra, and May, or Big Goose playing Mercy, Anna, and Lucio. So the Gladiators showing that, and it takes me back to a comment that I think Bryn made the day before the stage started, where he said he was observing some scrims or looking at scrim footage, and he says it looks like the meta is very fluid, very flexible. We're seeing a lot of heroes being played, and so far, with what we're seeing out of the Gladiators, what we're seeing out of the San Francisco Shock, the teams that have the ability to flex to all these heroes, Lepelos, perhaps they'll do better this stage than those that are, more rigid.
Well, if you want to talk flex, let's talk San Francisco Shock third map here. their flex tank Nevix, we suspected he might ended up going to be their Brigitte player, did not perform to the same level, in my opinion, that Bishu was. Now, part of this being the strength that you had of Fisher, as well as the lack of an answer that San Francisco Shock had for hydration up in the skies as Farah for 2 rounds of Lijiang Tower, both of them won by Los Angeles LA Gladiators here.
I mean, and it's odd, right? Because when you see hydration come in on Lijiang, you can expect two things. One of two things, sorry. You can the Genji or the Pharah. And Genji being the way he is and the vulnerabilities that Genji has to Baguette, you can then expect him to be playing the Pharah. And I did not expect the San Francisco Shock to have no real answer for him. And looking at what they played, Lepelos, they themselves never tried to do anything except run Architect on a counter Pharah. There's no McCree here in their heroes played. There's no Soldier. There's there's
a
not even
Diva
a Zen.
maybe at one point,
I mean, but
not even a
Diva
Zen
with no Zen. Where if you put a Discord on the Pharah, Diva can get a lot more. I mean, you have Sleepy playing the Ana, but even then, if Sleepy's trying to shoot the Pharah out of the sky, he's not healing.
Yeah.
And when you're running a triple tank, or perhaps although at times they're in triple support, so maybe
I'm going to interrupt you there, Jax. Is that a lack of respect for hydration coming out of San Francisco Shock, or are they just rigid here?
I can't. Maybe after the first map, after the first sub map, you think, okay, well, they thought that they could deal with it, and then when you go to the second map of Lijiang and they still don't flex, you're like, that's just them being rigid. That's just them not wanting to change their plan in order to deal with it. I mean, I'm looking at Sinatra here, who stayed on Zarya the entire time. And he was 4-7 for his eliminations, and you didn't really do anything. When I look at King of the Hill, Lepelos, no one, not a single player for San Francisco Shock on Legendary Tower had a positive elims to death.
Yeah, and speaking of not a positive elims to death, let's go ahead and talk Watchpoint Gibraltar here. Sniper matchup, Surefire versus Architect. Tell me how this went for Gladiators based on that alone.
I can tell you coming into this that I hoped that the Gladiators coaching staff had figured out Watchpoint Gibraltar. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but this was a stage 2 map, and it was the worst map for the Gladiators. They were held on first point 3 times in stage 2, Lepelos. So coming into this, I'm saying they've had it's been almost 2 months now for them to figure out something to do on Watchpoint. Somehow, you cannot have this glaring weakness in your map pool. And
but it remains here, Jax. It remains here. And San Francisco Shock closing out with 1 checkpoint plus 75.57 meters. That's the 2 that they need. Time remaining for over 4 minutes, Jax. Over 4 minutes. 4.5 minutes.
Then let me just give you some numbers then, Lepelos. You talked about the Widow battle between Surefire and Architect. Architect finished 14-1. Surefire, who not only played Widow, he played Ginji, he played a little Hanzo, he finished 1-9. That is unacceptable for your sniper. I'm sorry, that is unacceptable for your sniper. And the only one with the positive elim on that match was Bishu at 3-2. Fisher, I have never seen. I can't say never, but it's rare to see Fisher shut down like this. Lepelos 1-8 for Fisher on elims to death. They don't have
it figured out. They just don't. But see,
this is
they won the match.
Thankfully, this is a escort and not a King of the Hill. So their lives won't be on the line like it is for London and their weakness on Oasis. It's just give me a break, man. You cannot. You're fighting like Gladiators with their position. Forget the stage 4, right? They're fighting. They're trying to claw themselves in to end of season 1 playoffs. You cannot have this map be this bad for you, because what do they like to say, Lepelos? Every map matters. 3-1 Gladiators, so they won this. That's the overall. And Jax, big thing for them.
I have some bad news for you. Looking ahead into the future for Watchpoint Gibraltar, week 4 is the next time that they play it, I believe, which is against New York Excelsior. They play it again that week against Spitfire, and then final week they play it against Dragons, sure, but more importantly against Seoul Dynasty in their last matchup. They played that. I can tell there. So
since we know the results, we're looking at it. The game against Seoul,
Might be
We'll see.
important.
We'll see.
We'll see there. Here, Gladiators do win it 3-1. Let's move into the next game. Speaking of Seoul Dynasty, they are taking on Valiant here. Starting off very well on a very strong Blizzard world for Seoul Dynasty. Strong push coming out of them from their attack. And Valiant, on the other hand, unable to do much on their attack. Only getting past first point and into that second area. Not getting that second point even. Not what I hoped from Valiant starting off here. Soon, I don't think it showed up as strongly as I would want him to.
I mean,
Here.
Both of us picked the Seoul Dynasty to win this series. So coming to this, we didn't know a couple things. One, who was going to play the baguette for Seoul. We didn't. Is Ryu Jae-hong going to play main tank? Like we
and
saw
the answer
him
is
on
yes.
his Winston, and now with the meta switching from Winston to Reinhardt. We're still left wondering, is he the best tank that Seoul Dynasty can put forward? The fact, since he's starting out here, the answer is yes. Now going forward, we're all gonna have these questions, but for me, like something that I wondered about on Blizzard World was, would I see Fleta? Would I see Wakid? Because they like to run Wakid when they want that defensive Junkrat Leplos, and since Junkrat has not been nerfed, I didn't know what to expect, but obviously I saw Fleta here, and I can just tell you his elims to death Leplos 19-1. 19-1. He played Widow and Pharah. 19-1, my man.
That's very, very good start off here for Fleta. That's where you want him. Moving on, though, to discuss Horizon Lunar Colony. Yeah, this one, Dynasty not looking so hot on. Can't even get the point. Can't even get a point.
And it's so odd.
They've had problems here in the past, too, haven't they, Jax?
Well, it's funny to me because that common highlight or commercial that they like to run with Uber casting is from stage 1 is the Seoul Dynasty
capturing against the Outlaws, I believe.
Yeah, exactly right. They love to run that clip and jam it down your throat. And now you're looking at it, you're saying, wow, no one for the Seoul Dynasty had positive elims to death on this 2CP map. And when you tell me that they didn't even get first point, that they got 58.8%, my mind is blown. I'm looking at what they ran here: Leplos, Tracer, Junkrat, Ginji, Widow, Winston, Orisa, Diva, Mercy, Zen. Like where's the baguette? Like,
maybe not prepared with it, to be honest.
Leplos, for 4 minutes, you keep where's the flex is basically what I'm asking.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that, though. They move on into Lijiang Tower themselves, and here it's, again, Valiant going well. Night Market, Control Center 2-0 right off the start here for Lijiang Tower. And Jax, it's bad again. It's really bad. And Agility's this time really showing up strongly. I believe he was mainly playing the Pharah on this one, or am I wrong on that?
He was playing mainly the Pharah, but I'm looking here. I asked you, where's the baguette? It's not the Valiant who bring her out. It's the Seoul Dynasty. We have Munchkin Leplos playing that. So, for the Gladiators, we saw Bishu, right? For the Tactical Shock, we saw Nevix. So now, those are the two flex tanks for their respective teams. Here, we're seeing Munchkin, the DPS player, flex over to her.
And well, similarly on Valiant,
on the Reinhardt, and I have to tell you, Lepelos, I have serious questions going forward if he's going to be their Reinhardt player.
Yeah, this is absolutely
gigantic
true.
Question marks all over everything. All my monitors have Ryu Jae-hong, Reinhardt, WTF. That's what it has next to him right now. So we'll see.
Yeah, going into Watchpoint Gibraltar, that Reinhardt does come out a bit from the side of Dynasty, but really it's more about Munchkin this time, Jax. And his Tracer and Junkrat coming into good play here on an extended round here on Watchpoint Gibraltar. This went the distance, man. This went to 4 checkpoints in distance, and it going the side of Seoul Dynasty in overtime. It was close. It was close.
No, I mean, good map. Seoul Dynasty needed it because obviously it's a match point for the Los Angeles Valiant. We're seeing that the Valiant haven't really figured it out, but what they want to do here with their own baguette. I'm looking here that at one time they had Agilities playing it, for a brief moment. Fate, messed around with it. It's just the dynasty. They've all have they. I think they've almost say always. They historically going back to Lunatic High, Watchpoint has been an okay map for them, but it's Munchkin, as you said. And how many times is it where I could say, Fleta popped off, but that's expected because he's one of the best DPS players. But last in stage three, there were moments where we said, "Wow, you know, where has this Munchkin been?" And for me, looking at Munchkin, I have to ask, where is the consistency for him, Leplos? How can he play so well here? But then I take you back to Horizon Lunar Colony, where he was 2-6.
Yeah. No, I'm absolutely more
Or
silent.
Lijiang Tower, where he was 3-6.
Did
And
not
then you
remain
come to
silent though,
Watchpoint, and he's
Jax.
21-9.
Did not
Like,
remain
wow.
silent on Nepal. He did his part, I would say. But let's go back to what you're saying about Ryu Jae-hong here. In Nepal, they lose both rounds here with 100 to 74 and then 100 to 72. On Nepal, Dynasty lose, LA Valiant win. Ryu Jae-hong 0 kills as a Reinhardt or a Winston. 0 eliminations, or like
He's
0 kills.
7.
Sorry, let me
I mean,
let me get eliminations. But that you're talking about a Reinhardt player, right? You don't even get one cleanup kill or any charge kill. Like, you don't get anything at all.
this is
Slightly concerning.
team fighting as a whole for them, Lepos. Munchkin, the only player with a positive elims to death at 10-9. And it's I'm not used to seeing Soul. I guess I kind of am used to it now since we're in stage 4, and they've been somewhat hit or miss. But you take a look at Nepal, you take a look at Horizon Lunar Colony, Li Zhang, where it's not so much tactics, but your team fight ability, and they don't have it. And I
Well,
know they bring in Ryu Jae-hong as main tank for his communication, but I think tank skill is going to become a problem. Towards
well,
the
you
end
want
of
to talk
stage
about
3,
that.
right? He was new, it was fresh, teams weren't prepared for it. Now they have footage of him playing these tanks levels and how he likes to engage or disengage and how he plays around his team. And in a team fight environment like King of the Hill or Assault or 2CP, the fact that they lost those 3 maps is quite telling, right? Because
Yeah.
what's important there? You have to get the initiation. Well, who leads you off on that? It's your tank.
Listen, there are some concerns that I have for Valiant as well. I'm gonna just run down some numbers here from the overall
Go for it.
from the overall match. First off, worst plus minus for kills to death. Ryu Jae-hong for Dynasty is at -18. That ties Custa, the support, at -18 as well. Both of those guys down there. You do not want to see your tank that low, though. We used to comment on other tanks having
Uploads,
poor
those are
KD, like
Roshan numbers.
Nomi
I
and
remix.
Roshan.
This
Exactly.
is what we expected from them.
On the flip side, the DPS were fairly comparable. Agility's +18, Munchkin doing pretty well, +14. Pretty good there. I want to highlight something, though, that you may have missed, because I mentioned Soon sort of not coming out of the gates very well. Soon is the second worst plus-minus on the side of the Valiant as a DPS player, and that is concerning. He's a -6.
No, go ahead.
He's a -6, and even in you compare this to Fleta, who in a losing scenario still managed a +12, and you look at that differential, and you've got to be concerned that Soon had a poor game there. So inconsistency obviously it happens. Hopefully Soon can right it for future matches, but a little bit concerning exiting this game. Jax, I want to move on though.
The concerning thing is that a lot of his time was spent on Widow, and we all know how good a how good a sniper Fleta is at Widow, and I think he was just outclassed there. Like, when you take a look at the first map that they lost on Blizzard World, as Widow soon went 4-11, whereas Fleta, Fleta wasn't just on Widow, he was also on Fair, but he went 19-1. It's just his Soon's Widow. If he's the best they've got, then going forward as they're trying to like, this was big. I guess we need to talk about it for a second.
No, we can't. We're our time, Jax.
No, but I mean, I know you don't want to, but we kind of have to. The playoff implications here. This is the first place in the Pacific Division here, where now I believe the Los Angeles Valiant has passed them. That first place guarantees you a bye in the first round of the playoffs, even though you're not the second best team in the league. The Valiant right now have taken that spot, and looking at it, Soul Dynasty, Leplos, they're six. They could potentially be the bubble team if they don't figure it out.
Yeah, they can definitely burst here and let other teams through if they continue to fail. Jax, let's move into the failing matchup of the week. Of course, we're talking Fuel versus Shanghai Dragons. You're not
Let's go
alone.
Dragons.
A lot of people picked Dragons, apparently, Jax, including, I believe it was Bren on the desk. I'm going to follow Monty's advice there, though, and suggest that until they win, you shouldn't be picking them, and that's not a knockout on you. I understand why you picked them. Unfortunately, Shanghai Dragons showing why you can't pick them. Winning Kings Row, you had hope. You had hope, right? 3-2.
This Shanghai is terrible.
Let's just run down the scoreline quickly. 3-2 off of Kings Row goes their way, but from there on, 3-2 Hanamura, 2-0 Oasis, 3-2 Dorado. Mickey earning the MVP with that Brigitte play, and I know you're gonna have a lot to say about Shanghai Dragons.
No, this is terrible.
Right off there.
The players for Shanghai need to be ashamed of themselves, but more so the coaching staff. I know they lost their coach Ryu sometime. Was it last stage? You know, he had health problems. He had to leave. I don't even know who the head coach for this team is, Lepos. I'm looking at what the Reddit detectives have put together now, or from scouring the Chinese sites and blogs and whatever. And this team is a mess. They don't have proper analysts. They don't have proper preparation. And when I say they don't have proper preparation, Lepos, look at what they're playing. There was a post that was a post made, someone asking, how does Ginji play in the current meta? Now that post was deleted because it was deleted off of Reddit because the mods are mods. But before it was, I went and I linked them a section of Dorado where Ado was playing Genji into Mickey's Baguette, Taimu's McCree, and Chip's on Zen. It was a key moment in the final third of Dorado, and Ado has the blade. And quite often blade is countered by transcendence or whatever, but you still want to get some kind of value. And when it comes to blade value, Ado, more than others levels, he had been getting kills with the blade, even while the enemy has pulled out transcendence. But in this instance, he pulled out the blade, stunned. Why? Because Baguette is there, and he spent the rest of the blade blocking or deflecting, and getting healed up. When I say they weren't prepared, there's also a clip of Custa, who was, the Valiant player. He was talking about this game, and he said, okay, it's good for Dallas, it's good for Mickey, but he doesn't expect other teams to let them get away with what they did here. Mickey Lepolos did whatever he wanted because Shanghai did not know what to do against Baguette. They probably still don't know what to do. And you know how you said you cannot pick Shanghai until they win? I don't care who I'm telling you right now, you don't have to ask me when we do our predictions, who I'm picking if Shanghai is playing. I will pick whoever is against them. I don't care. Even if it's a Lucky Future Zenith, the Chinese contender winner Leplos. I pick them over Shanghai because they have coaching, because they Leplos, I'm sorry.
Jax.
This is trash. Okay? This was trash from this team.
Okay, Jax, let's move into the next game, though, because I agree with you. It was a very poor game, and I don't want to spend too much more time on it because it's not worth it.
But because the lack of effort this team has shown now for this stage here.
I feel like we've probably put more time analyzing their stuff than they've put into...
Don't get me started on Free Field either, okay? They still run that guy out there. No, Shanghai people, if you're betting on this, don't ever pick Shanghai. I don't care how good the odds are. This team is ass. Pardon my language, it had to be said.
One of the teams to be blown up in the off season. Jax, let's move on to discuss Boston Uprising versus Philadelphia Fusion here. I believe we actually picked opposite here. I think I had probably Uprising entering this one. You had Fusion. And Jax, it looked good for me off the start. 3-2 Kings Row going Boston's way with a pretty good defense actually coming up for them to ensure the hold there. Hanamura, though, oh boy, did not look good. Philadelphia Fusion 1-0 there. 2-1 Lijiang Tower for Fusion. And then Dorado unable to capture out B point. Fusion easily making that distance with the 2-1 victory there for the 3-1 overall match score. And Fusion take this matchup pretty soundly, I have to say, Jax.
I think I said coming into this, I I didn't pick Boston for either of their games this week. I think one of the things I said last week is there's some I couldn't put my finger on it. One, well, part of my finger was on the fact that Krusty, their head coach, is gone.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah.
And two, it's I just something about the pro. Okay, I know what it is that Tracer is falling out of the meta. Not out, but she's seeing less value in the meta compared to previous stages, compared to any other time, basically in professional Overwatch. And when that happens, Striker loses value. Now,
Yeah.
yes, Striker, phenomenal Junkrat, but again, it's the Tracer play that that helped to carry this team. And if Striker falls off, that means Mistakes now has to step up levels. And Mistakes, while he has his moments, he's not there all the time. And here, Philly, I had my questions about them because they rested Carpe. We didn't know how they were going to fit things in, and we still don't, because I'm looking on one of the maps we had Fraggy and Poco, but then on another map, Lupos, we saw Sato. The 30-game suspension is over. They run Sato and Hotbutt together, where at other times they run Fraggy and Poco. So we're now
some Korean
this
viewers,
flex
Jax,
coming in. I mean,
might not know his name still at this point.
The Korean casters refuse to say the guy's name. This is interesting, and I don't think Boston was ready for the Sato Hotba because no one was really ready for it. I think they tried to stick to what they know because because one, the whole patch debacle, and two, they lost their head coach, man. And while we still ultimately we don't know just how much a coach brings to a team, we're starting to see signs that the coaches kind of matter here, and Krusty is gone, and this team, I don't think they'll miss the playoffs in the season playoffs levels. They could potentially miss the stage playoffs though.
Absolutely, at this rate. Like
it's looking
maybe
rough.
not at this rate, but yeah, without Striker being there as your star player, could be a little.
I mean, they
problem.
had a 14. I know that their streak was broken in the playoffs, but they had a regular stage streak levels that was still going, and it did not hold up very well against the Philadelphia Fusion. Chef Coach Heidi coming out with the good food, and the team came out strong.
Jax, speaking of another strong team, New York Excelsior taking on Florida Mayhem. If you speak about star players, though, you gotta talk about Saya player being sort of the great hope for Florida Mayhem these days. That's what they're banking on. Unfortunately, not enough here against New York Excelsior. Scoreline being 3-2 Kings Row, NYXL, 3-3 draw on Hanamura, 2-1 on Oasis NYXL, and Watchpoint Gibraltar 3-1 for NYXL. So 3-0.
My internet was bad this week, so I couldn't watch all of the games that I wanted to. But I'm looking here at the lineups. You talk about Saya player Leplos. He didn't play in this series.
You have to wonder why they didn't bring him out.
My mind is blown when I hear that. I mean, yes, Logix is a perfectly serviceable Widow and whatever else you want to run him on. It's just I think Saya player was one of the hottest DPS players in Stage 3, and to not run him against the New York Excelsior, I feel was a mistake. The Excelsior, though, Lepelos, let's take a look at them right quick because we have the running tank story with them. We had Jonas on the first 2 maps, and then we had Mono on the last 2 maps. So they're still running with that, right? They're still working in their tank players where they feel comfortable. It worked. They won. They did draw a map, so it was 3-0 in their favor, but you can't really find fault there.
Yeah, I still wonder why they put. I mean, we've talked about this. Janice in early, Mano in second. I don't know why when it looks like Mano, like you get your maps early and then you sub in. Anyways, I don't want to stick on that for long. Let's also talk about Houston versus London. Jax, Jake came alive. Can we say that?
What?
And Linkser popping off. It was a dual DPS beatdown of London, and guess what? Birdring was in the match as well. Yeah, Spitfire
was wrong, Leplos?
Spitfire dropping the ball here really, really bad. Let's go through those scores. 3-0 Kings Row, 2-1 Horizon Lunar Colony, Lijiang Tower 2-0, Watchpoint Gibraltar 5-4. All of those going Houston Outlaws way, Jax. Every single map.
They didn't even capture the first point on Kings Row?
did not. They got, yeah. That's where things started, Jax. It was a quick time on Kings Row, if I remember correctly. Let me double check the time there. Yeah, it was a quick attack on Kings Row, followed by a shutout on that A point. And you have to be concerned, you know, if you're Spitfire and your rivals in the Houston Outlaws at this point, because honestly, like, they seem to have their number a little bit.
Okay,
Or they 4-0'd them, I believe, in the regular season now.
This is the second or third. I think Houston has beaten London more than any other team. So we got that out there. And I think you are correct. This might have been the second time that they have 4-0'd the.
No. I mean, I believe they've won all 4 times in the regular season.
Yeah. Is it all 4?
I believe so.
Oh, I'll let you look that up while I talk. We had interesting enough Lepelos. Linkser, who kind of, you know, I won't say he disappeared, but in stage one, Linkser's Widow was up there. We had the Hex talking about him being the best counter Widow, blah, blah, blah. But stage 2, stage 3, his Widow kind of, you know, backed off a little bit. He wasn't as oppressive, as dominating as he was in stage 1. And now here in stage 4, I don't think that we can blame London too much. Yes, you can, but not too much when Linkser plays as well as he did on Widow. Widow is that good, Lepelos. It's that important. When you have a Widow who can just shut it down like that, there's nothing. What do you do? What do you do, Lepelos?
You struggle greatly to try and get anything done, as much as London did here.
Birdring coming off of injury, you know, we don't know how healthy he is, but you just look at his numbers here. -4 elims to death on Kings Row. It was -4 on Horizon. It was -4 on Li Zhang, and it was -8 on Watchpoint. Just take a look at that, man. You cannot win if you're DPS. Lepelos, he didn't have a single map with positive elims to death in his DPS.
Even Prophet struggling to get a positive KD at all. It was definitely a beatdown this time, Jax. I also want to just correct myself. They've won 3 out of the 4 matches for the Houston Outlaws. They lost in stage 2 in a 3-1 score there.
Here's the deal, though. I think we talked about it. This could be Houston's stage. The meta change, the maps, Lepelos, we're seeing Spree again because Kings Row is back, because Zarya is back, and Spree is one of the best Zarya players in the professional scene.
Jackson, I have to correct myself again. That was in the stage playoffs of stage.
Stage 1.
Yeah, stage 1. So, they haven't not lost in regular season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But Houston, I mean, I know you picked them, so you saw something here for me. London, I see more question marks, like the Seoul Dynasty. Maybe not as big.
Too much faith in Birdring, maybe, Jax. Maybe too much faith in Birdring to right the wrongs that London Spitfire have been having. It just looks like they're missing out on something. I suspected here that it was going to be the uncertainty that Houston brings with maybe a different kind of lineup, and that kind of uncertainty always challenges Korean teams, but particularly Dynasty, I find, and then Spitfire as well.
I mean, it's something to think about when it comes to the Spitfire. As you know how we talked about coaching in Boston and, you know, them losing Krusty. Let's take a look at the London Spitfire. They lost Bishop in the middle of stage 2. They made the stage 2 playoffs, Lepelos, but, you know, they got beat by the New York Excelsior, and ever since Bishop has left this team, the London Spitfire has not been the same. Yes, maps have changed, meta has changed, but if you look at the sheer raw talent, mechanical skill that London has, the results don't favor them. So I have to now look at the management here and saying, did they make a mistake? Because from what we heard was the players who voted Bishop out back in stage 2.
It can be a struggle facing.
Take a look at that, man. It's the coach.
Yeah, but maybe you can't bring him back in. I mean, you can't bring him back in.
If the players voted him out,
but they needed to find a good replacement for him, and apparently their in-house was not good in-house.
Big game for them again coming up later in the week, I think.
Yeah, against NYXL on the last game of the week.
Right there. But
moving on to day 3, though, Jax, we had Dallas Fuel taking on LA Gladiators here.
Shields up, Lepelos. Come on.
Of course. Listen, from here on out, you and I both picked the same teams throughout, I believe. Yeah. And Dallas Fuel, come on, we can't pick them against Gladiators. You can't pick them against anyone else but Shanghai Dragons in this stage,
I mean,
basically.
they had they had a chance here just because of how strong they looked against Shanghai. But again, like Custa said, it's more of Shanghai being unprepared and the Gladiators saying, "No, we're trying to fight for the playoffs. You guys are bad. Most of you probably won't have jobs come season 2, and we're going to 4-0 you." Was it Blizzard World Lepelos again? The love for the Gladiators. Their best map, still undefeated on Blizzard World. Full hold Lepelos against the Dallas Fuel.
Can't ask for more off the start.
Hanamura 3
Jax,
2.
I just want to point out 2 full holds on Blizzard World to start
Their
this
best
stage.
Map. It is their bet. You know how Boston had Anubis and Volskaya last stage. Teams have maps that they're really good at. This just happens to be the Gladiators. Thankfully, they have their best map, Leplos, to help offset one of their worst maps in Watchpoint Gibraltar. But Hanamura 3-2 Gladiators, Oasis 2-1 Gladiators. The Fuel did fight back here. Dorado also. This was 3-2 in favor of the Gladiators. Dallas put up a fight. So while I am happy that the Gladiators won it 4-0, because you know me, and I hate how the Gladiators take their foot off the enemy's neck. They let them up. They lose their edge. They actually won a series 4-0, which is a rarity for them. But Dallas played well. This is interesting. Chips, Harry Hook, Mickey, OGE, Taimu, and Seiko. No AKM again. No Unco again. So perhaps Coach Arrow, fresh in off of the Fusion University contenders team, he's now head coach for Dallas. He's trying to see what he has to work with, right? He went back to more of a core Envy lineup, except no Coco, which who knows.
Who knows what's going on there entirely?
The potential is there, right? You can somewhat see upside for Dallas Fuel. It's just.
I mean, Arrow seems like he has a good head on his shoulders from the interviews that he's had. So I look forward to good things.
Will they let him coach them?
That's part of the coaching too. I mean, honestly, sometimes not. Like that might be the team issue, and that might be why, in part, why the team needs to be blown up in the offseason. We'll come to that when the offseason comes. Jax. Right. Moving on, Uprising versus Houston. And Houston's strength on Kings Row starting to become evident. Another shutout this week for them on that map. I have to ask
you, so you picked Boston earlier in the week against Philly, but then you picked Houston over Boston later in the week. Something, I forget why you said that. Do you even remember yourself why you took Houston over Boston?
Yeah, I felt like the tracers weren't going to come into play as much in this one for Striker, whereas when I saw them taking on Fusion, like he didn't know if Carpe was going to be back. I thought he might be rusty. Right. Instead, Ikeo carried pretty hard because the Fusion could have completely dropped the ball there. Instead, we got to see a different lineup from them in that game. Here, though, I was expecting sort of a quiet performance out of Striker and mistakes, and that's basically what I got watching the Uprising. On the other side,
seeing AimGod, their stage 3 signing, the support player, he came in from I forgot who was he playing with in contenders. It doesn't really matter, but he started in place of Note, right?
Was that X6? But he was starting in place of Note, if I remember correctly, and it didn't look great.
Nico, okay, too many of these players have similar names, so I get them confused. It's just I'm a little bit surprised by this. I thought that the Zen play for Boston had been okay. When I say surprise, he played all 4 maps for Boston here. So the coaching staff there in Huck, the general manager, they see something that they like out of him. Sadly, they didn't see it enough to do anything really against they took a map, so I guess I can't really say that. But let's just run it down right quick. Houston, Lepos, full hold Boston on Kings Row.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
About the Gladiators back-to-back full hold on Blizzard World. This is Houston now against London and Boston on Kings Row.
Yeah, they're showing strong Kings Row coming out of Houston Outlaws. And Jax, you got to be concerned for Gladiators then next week when they take Houston. Okay, we're not going there right yet, but we'll talk about that in time. Here, though, they take Kings Row 1-0, Hanamura 2-1 Outlaws. Oasis going the way of Uprising here, 2-1 there. And Gibraltar, Jax, I believe that was Lynxer's playground, if I'm not mistaken, as they take that one 2-1. He popped off
Again,
yet again. I mean, they played back-to-back days, Jax, and he popped off. So
here's the deal. If they can, if Linkser can keep this level of output, the Houston Outlaws will be very dangerous because Widow is that good. Widow is that broken. And if your Widow is just dominant like that, there's not much the enemy team can do, man.
I'm going to say it as well. Again, Jake performed better this week in general. And I'm not going to say that's only because Linkser, but I think it also helped Linkser. We've talked about it, the synergy between the DPS helping each other out by both being a threat. We've talked about this since the early days of Surefour struggling with Reaver.
When it comes to Jake, like people look at Jake, I think he's team captain, right? He's the vocal one. He's the face and he's the meme. But for me, Linkser has always been, the star DPS there. But for Jake, can he do enough to not cost them? In previous stages, like take last stage, I'm sorry, his Tracer is a joke. On anything except Junkrat last stage, he was a joke. That is my opinion, and
yeah,
I feel it's warranted. But now, right, it's not just his Junkrat. He's playing like he played Genji, Hanzo. We see him on a little baguette. He's doing enough to not cost the team. And I do have to say, on Watchpoint, fantastic strats now from Houston Outlaws. I think earlier in the week we saw Muma playing the baguette, and they ran solo diva levels on Watchpoint. It worked,
yeah,
right?
And it worked.
But again, you look at this, and I want to take you back to the coaching situation because I think we're really gonna have to start putting a little more weight behind coaches.
I still disappointed.
Coach Kai.
They need to interview. They need to interview them and not the players after the matches. And that's my opinion. Stop talking to the players. Start putting the coaches up front.
I mean, Coach Kai now with Coach Taerong, I think Taerong, the Korean coach, I think his we talked about it. Koreans, they like their preparation. I think Coach Kai adds some creativity, some of those out of the box strats that I think you talked about it before, where you don't mind them so long as they're well executed. I think now you have Coach Kai with the creative strats and Taerong who make sure they're executed well.
And so people there that believe in that too.
This could very well be their stage, man. This could be their stage.
Absolutely. I'm definitely, I think, dark horse for the stage. I mean, obviously you still have to. Well, NMYXL looking strong. We'll come to that. Before we do, though, we had Shock taking on Seoul Dynasty here. And Jax, you and I both picked Seoul Dynasty thinking that, they had prepared well for this stage. Showing up here against San Francisco Shock.
Time out. In the first game of the week for Seoul, we picked Seoul. This game, you and I both picked the San Francisco Shock.
Did we?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I had that backwards.
Definitely. Because, we were
sorry about that one.
We were looking. I think for the first game, I wasn't gonna pick against my Gladiators. You picked San Francisco in your first game, and then you stuck by them again for your second game, and I joined you because we're looking at San Francisco and their ability to flex, and we stopped and we just thought about who could play what, right? And we said we noticed that Nevix is king flex. He flexed anything and everything Nevix has played. DPS, tank, healer, whatever. You can slap him on there. With Architect showing up, you look at Dante, and I think what it was, we remembered that if you take Nevix and put him on the baguette, you say, well, who's going to play Zarya? And he says, well, they have Sinatra. They have Baby Bay. Both of them DPS players who are really good at playing Zarya. Questionable gravitons, but they're really good at playing Zarya. And then we talk about Super, right, and how good his Reinhardt play is or was. And so you and I think we looked at San Francisco and we said, this team has a lot of potential, whereas you look at the Seoul Dynasty and you don't think that potential is there anymore. And were we justified, Leplos, in our picks?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to run down the scores and then a couple numbers here, Jack. So, Blizzard World 3-2, San Francisco Shock, Horizon Lunar Colony 2-1, Shock, Oasis 2-0 Dynasty, 3-1 Gibraltar for Shock for the 3-1 victory. Before we discuss, let me get this number right here. Ryu Jae-hong, plus minus 23. Lowest on his team again.
Damn.
Jax, I think I'm just going to bring up the fact that previous series, I also talked to him, we mentioned the main tank dying, Ryu Jae-hung there, worst plus minus there. And I'm going to again mention that if you compared where the Shock were in stage 1 and stage 2 with Nomi to where they are these days, and that important stat of your plus minus for your main tank as somebody who is surviving or not. And obviously it's a team game, yes, but
I think I remember watching Oversight tonight. They had Reinforce and Mr. X on, and Reinforce was talking about the future for the San Francisco Shock, looking ahead to season 2, and how they have positioned themselves with how they built this team to be a season 2 end of season playoff team. If you take a look at their numbers from the first, before anything before 150K or stage 1 and stage 2, and I think stage 1 and stage 2, when they did not have 150K, they did not have Sinatra, they did not have Architect, right? And they still, I think Choyo Bin just got in. So this team going forward, Lepelos, and also let's take a time out, because I forgot we're on a coaching kick this podcast. So who did the San Francisco Shock bring in as their coach?
I think we might have mentioned this too. It's Krusty.
It's Krusty,
they
so the guy
look,
who led Boston is now leading the San Francisco Shock.
I mean, here coming through with big performances from Sinatra and Architect, obviously too, but definitely a huge part of the reason. But I think that's going to have a huge impact on this young roster, and quicker than you might find on other teams, right?
I also think I read a translation from one of the Korean translators. I forget who. Sorry, Toby Lepelos with the wrist issue. So
not full health on Dynasty right now.
It's just Toby, an integral part of the core team. Who knows if he can play or not. It's just you look at Seoul, look at the tank situation. If Reinhardt is the thing, I think you have to bring in Miro and Kuki, man.
Miro and Kuki have to get up there, and they're not there right now, and that's unfortunate for them. Jax, we're moving on though, discussing Fusion versus Mayhem really quickly, because Blizzard World. Yeah, there's something worthwhile talking about. I mentioned you need to check it out. But Blizzard World here, 2-0 Philadelphia Fusion, Horizon Lunar Colony 1-0, Oasis 2-0, Dorado 3-1. Absolute thrashing of the Mayhem here by the Fusion for that 4-0 victory. Horrible, horrible loss. Mayhem looking so bad. Only good thing though, I mentioned Saya player being your star. Jax, did you check out the clips on Horizon Lunar Colony B point defense? His Widow is ridiculous. You mentioned Linkser. How bad are the Mayhem that you cannot carry the team with a Widow like that?
I
feel like we need a button here right now to blow this team up, so we can just go ahead and watch them in next season.
Sideshow likes to stream really late, and I forget why I was up, but I'm a night owl, so I know why I was up. But Sideshow, he basically said that right now, the players for Shanghai Dragons, Dallas Fuel, and Florida Mayhem are playing for their effing jobs. Those were his words, almost verbatim. And he's not wrong. On the Oversight podcast tonight with Thorn, Monty, Mr. X, and Reinforced, they all pretty much said the same thing. This team can go away now. So stage 1, they were already on my list of teams I don't care about. I glanced at their games. I watched them because I enjoy seeing what Saya player can do. This guy is an amazing DPS player. I think you keep him. As much as I love Tavik and have enjoyed his play through the years, I wonder if the synergy is there with Saya player. But right now, I'm keeping Saya player Lepelos. Everybody else need to start performing, otherwise you're out.
I have to agree with you. It's looking pretty bad for them. Jax, let's talk about another team not performing well. Obviously, Dragons. Shanghai Dragons taking on LA Valiant here. Quick rundown: Kings Row 5-4 Valiant, 1-0 Hanamura Valiant, 2-0 Oasis Valiant, and Jax 3-0 Watchpoint Gibraltar. Shanghai Dragons, they shut out Valiant on the Watchpoint Gibraltar, and you're left wondering why Valiant? You need maps. Why are you dropping? Not only dropping, not even taking a point on Watchpoint Gibraltar here. Gotta be. I mean, we talk about it, but Man, that's a big upset to not even get a point on
I mean,
Gibraltar against
Kings
Dragons.
Row that went in favor of the Valiant 5-4. Shanghai in the previous game against Dallas, sorry, Kings Row was one of their better maps. So
Yeah, for
now
sure.
we're starting to say, okay, they can compete on Kings Row, they can compete on Watchpoint. Now, can they compete on the other maps? Can they figure out how to play Baguette, how to play against Baguette? Until they do, Lepelos, I made myself perfectly clear about this team. I like some of the players, but they're I like that I'm seeing Damon now. We didn't see Damon. I think communication issues kept him out of stage 3. We're starting to see him being worked in more. I think the coaching, that whatever coaching they do have, they're still trying to figure it out, right? They're trying to figure out what they can get away with communication wise, but with the players that they have. I think it's really unfortunate that they have to use an amalgamation of 3 different languages. Like that is almost
Yeah.
I don't it's rough. And when I
So
look and when I read and about how and you just look at it, it's just
it's just really tough. Jax, just to close this out, why I'm asking this question though is I want you to go ahead. I'm going to tell you the lineup here coming out for the LA Valiant.
okay.
You've got Bunny out there, you've got
Okay.
Kareev, you've got Space, but
Okay.
here we go. You've got Numlocked, you've got KSF, and you've got Verbo
Huh?
all coming in for your fourth map.
Huh? What?
So,
What?
I listen, Jax. I've said it.
Okay.
You get
Okay.
your
See,
win.
see y'all.
You
Lepelos
get
keep
your
trolling. See,
win.
Lepelos knows that this week I had a really bad internet. Spectrum can kiss my behind.
All
I
right.
missed a number of games just because my internet has been that freaking bad. So when what ex- eh,
I've mentioned this though from a
one, I'll
coaching
give you
standpoint.
one.
I
You mean to tell me they substituted 3 players, man?
at 3 players. I think more
Verbo.
like four.
What?
Yeah, right. Or
Okay, I'm
Numlocked,
looking at
Verbo,
this.
Bunny,
See,
KSF.
okay, you
Right.
cannot bury the lead like you just did,
I
Lepelos.
sandbagged you
Because
so hard
here
here.
you have me giving Shanghai credit for taking Watchpoint in such a strong fashion, such a dominant fashion. And then you come back and well, Jax, you see the Los Angeles
The
Valiant, they had a few,
they had
they had a few
two
roster
thirds of their
changes, a
team
few
replaced.
substitutions.
Yeah.
Numlocked, we haven't seen. I just go Winston Labs -6 elims to death for Numlocked. Verbo -5. Bunny -1. What did Bunny even play? What he played Tracer, Widow, and Junkrat. -1 KD. That's terrible.
The-
No
uh,
fate. No, no.
okay, so
Get out of here, Lepelos.
listen.
Get
I've
out of
I've
here.
said this before. I'm not sure if this is exactly how I do it with like a whole change team, switch of the teams. But what I will say is I've mentioned this. I do like them securing the win and then getting some
Right.
players time on stage, and I think that's huge. It might have been a loss, but it's if you're a bench player, this is a learning moment to be like,
It's
well,
experience. It's
it's
experience.
experience, and it's like this was the worst team, and they beat up on us,
Oh, I
and that
forgot what
means I need to
Numlock even look like, man.
yeah, there
Huh.
you go, right? So like it shows that they still need to practice hard in order to try and even compete at the highest level right now,
Assistant
and I
coach
think that's
Grim
good for them.
Reality has to put in some work with the sister team there.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Speaking of sister teams, let's talk London and New York Excelsior. I don't know why they're sister teams. Let's just call them sister teams. Both from major cities, both having Korean rosters from
Okay.
previous years. But here, New York Excelsior, strong favorite. We both picked them. Was it a big surprise to see what came out here, Jax?
Surprised that London took a map.
Yeah, well, London did take a map. Here's the score, though. Kings Row 2-1 NYXL, 1-0 NYXL, 2-1 Lijiang Tower for Spitfire, then 1-0 Dorado. Another horrible matchup. I mean, they took a map, but you got shut out twice in one game. Now, that's not feeling good if you're a Spitfire fan.
I mean, Lepos, you go back to stage 1. They were competitive. They won stage 1 they had a come from behind stage 1 playoff victory over the New York Excelsior. And you think back to that team, you look at this team, and you just say, what the hell happened to the London Spitfire? And surprisingly, they didn't make those changes that you normally see out of London. They didn't change half the roster. every other map. They kept the same 6, and sadly, they just could not compete, Lepelos. And you have to be worried now if you're going up against the New York Excelsior. Slasher, Leak Boy, he had a screenshot. You know what the screenshot showed, Lepelos? Jay Jonak Zenyatta, 425 HP. You are scared out of your ever-loving mind if you have to go up. He doesn't die.
Yeah,
How
I
you
love
gonna
that
kill
one. That was a
Jonak
great one.
with 425 health, Lepelos? What are you gonna do?
Definitely concerning going up against
What
this
are you gonna
NYXL.
do, man? You
It's
gonna die.
it is sort of a buff to them, honestly, if you think about it, because now, like, okay, like, talk about the NYXL lineup here. Like, where are your strengths? Like, Sabiolbi, Libero, Mano, particularly on that, and Jay Jonak, right? Like, again,
Jonak had
it's
the
Jonak.
highest elims to death on the first map of King's Row. +7.
I mean, not a surprise. Not a surprise, but
the surprise from this series is the map that London won, the King of the Hill, Legion Tower. It was Mono main tanking and not Janus. So Janus winning both of his maps, Mono dropping a map, Lepelos.
maybe we're going to see a switch up
in a while. So
switch up in the NYXL tank meta that we need.
And it's interesting. They're in New York itself. They're basically they're running the same thing, man. And it's like they don't. You almost get the sense that they don't care. I mean, yes, they have already locked up their playoff spot, and I think it didn't come out as of. It's probably even less now since Boston lost their second game, but they had to only win 5 of their games to secure first place throughout the entire playoffs. So they've won 2 out of the 5, and with Boston losing, and with I think Boston going to continue to lose number of games, you can pretty much cement them in as the number 1 team. And so, the pressure kind of off of them, Lepelos, the coaching staff they can play around almost for lack of a better word. They can mix and match and try things and not have to worry because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you're London, if you're the Spitfire, it's almost
it doesn't feel good to be the practice team.
Let's take a look at this. So this is
Jax, I do want to move on quickly though because we're running out of time here for our schedule. So
it's just that I'm looking at playoffs here, and I think we might have to take a look at the playoff situation. New York, Boston, London are the top 3, and then 4, 5, and 6 you got Los Angeles Valiant, Philadelphia Fusion, and Seoul Dynasty. And on 7 and 8, you've got Houston Outlaws and the Los Angeles Gladiators. So London Spitfire at 20 and 12, Lepelos. If they continue to lose like this, do you think they can fall completely out of the playoff picture?
Listen, they're going to pick up enough wins to
2 games, Lepelos. There's a 2-game difference.
Listen, 2 games difference. You're talking Fuel and you're talking Dragons. There you go. So they're going to get through.
Okay,
right?
Then one last thing before we move on. Then right now you have the Seoul Dynasty at 19 and 13. They're 1 game behind Los Angeles Valiant at 20 and 12 for overall lead in the Pacific Division. You have the Houston Outlaws 18 and 14, Los Angeles Gladiators 18 and 14. Do we see the Seoul Dynasty fail to make the end of season 1 playoffs?
Oh man, that's a big question.
They have a 1-game lead, Lepelos. They have a worse map differential right now than Houston Outlaws. Houston Outlaws are +19.
I think they will, honestly, Jax. I think they will. Like they're not. They fall? Okay. I think they fall. I do. I honestly do right now because you look at if Outlaws continue to play like the way that they've played, they've improved their coaching staff. They're not going through health issues. Right. Conversely to that, you have Dynasties like bringing in a new main tank, which was their former best support, and he's not performing well in that main tank spot. So you have people also playing support that aren't necessarily their best support, and it's just down the line. You can't look at this team with a lot of hope. They've got to turn it around. I don't think they will right now, judging from their recent performance. And that recent performance, we're talking all of last stage. Right,
I'm looking right now at their schedule. Seoul Dynasty is fortunate. They still have Shanghai. They still have the Dragons, the Mayhem, and the Fuel to come. But the last game of the season for them, Lepelos, is against the Los Angeles Gladiators.
Yeah. Can
That
be a huge one.
could be very interesting.
I know we can't pick the Dragons, Jax, but they have pushed Seoul Dynasty a number of times. There's 2 teams left, in my opinion, this season, and I know I'm taking a little more time.
No, it's fine.
For Dragons to win against Mayhem or Dynasty are honestly my 2 picks.
You put Dynasty, Lepelos, that bad!
Because they've almost lost to them, what, 2-3 times now in Game 5s? Including in last stage, and they haven't. Are they looking better than they have last stage? Dragons or Dynasty? I don't know. I'm saying these are the potentials. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying I could see it happening because how poorly the Dynasty are doing, not because of how good Dragons are. But
the only reason why I say perhaps not is the week they play. So Dynasty plays Shanghai Dragons. That's first, right? The second game of that week is against Florida Mayhem. So they have 2 soft teams. They don't have to, they don't have to prepare for a team like New York because upcoming, which I guess we're gonna get to here in a minute though. Seoul plays New York and London this week, Lepelos.
Yeah,
we'll see. But that's it for Overwatch League Stage 4, Week 1.
Yeah, we do have some more Overwatch to cover though in our rundown. We're talking about Australian contenders finishing out this week, Jackson. Some interesting things happened there in Australian contenders. Darksided, I believe Group A undefeated, dropped a couple of maps.
18-2 map line. Yeah. 5-0, 18-2 map line for them.
Really, really good map line. They were taking on Sydney Drop Bears in the semifinals, and what an interesting upset this is. Sydney Drop Bears coming out 3-2 over Darksided to win the first semifinals here. They even got a shutout on Hollywood. I'm just going to mention that one without going out into other details. So, Sydney Drop Bears upsetting one of the top 2 teams. On the other bracket, we had Masterminds GC in the regular season, undefeated, did not drop a single map, winning over Blank Blue, dropping a single map on Nepal to start out, but then going on to dominate Hollywood, Hanmer, and Dorado to make their way into the finals to face off against their fellow Group B opponent, Sydney Drop Bears.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that because they defeated them clearly. Masterminds clearly defeated Sydney Drop Bears with a 4-0 in the regular season. Here they're facing them in a best of 7 grand of finals. And I'm going to run down the score lines. 2-0 Nepal, 1-0 Hollywood, 2-1 Horizon Lunar Colony, 3-2 Junkertown. This was a 4-0 Jax by Sydney Drop Bears over Masterminds GC in a huge upset for 2 games in a row for Sydney Drop Bears to take Overwatch Contenders Season 1 Australia.
What
massive upsets.
I mean, you want to get hot in the playoffs, right? Like that's when you want to make your run here. I'm looking at the quarterfinal opponent. Sydney Drop Bears beat them 3-0. Well, quarterfinal is Legacy Esports Lepelos 2-0, 2-1, 1-0. So, they did good there to beat Darksided. Because coming into this tournament, in the previous tournaments that we followed from Australia and New Zealand region, Darksided was one of the best teams.
Yeah.
Mastermind GC, we have followed as long as you and I have covered Australia and New Zealand, Mastermind GC has been in and around the top. They have always been there. So for them to come in and beat Darksided 3-2, that is huge. But to then 4-0 Masterminds who hadn't dropped the map, wow. Huge. And here's the thing, Lepelos, did you enjoy watching this game?
Listen, I haven't had time to watch this. So much Overwatch League going on.
Let me ask you something, Lepelos, because this is supposed to be the path to pro, right? And we saw China was screwed with their coverage because they got cut off by the European final, the EU final, right?
Yeah.
EU and North America, they had this beautiful land right there in Katowice, right? Brazil, they had their finals was broadcasted. When this was broadcast, Lepelos? This was Saturday at the exact same time as the Overwatch League.
Yeah.
So if you have, people have a limited capacity when it comes to how much of a certain sport you can watch. It's just a fact now, and people have limited amounts of time. Are you going to watch the Overwatch League, or are you going to watch the playoffs of the Australian Contender Season 1? And in Blizzard, if I'm Australian, I do not trust because you did us wrong, Lepelos. This is not right. This is
Timing
not
was
right.
poor. It should have been in the off week as many of the
Everybody else
others
got
were.
an off week. Why are they having to go up against?
Who knows, Jax? Maybe there's
Okay,
something in the organizers of the Australian ones. I'll have to look up why. Maybe I honestly do not know, but it was absolutely awful, and it's such
I
a
think
shame.
half
Like
the
I
time,
will
right?
try.
Like I saw the score for Darkseid versus Sydney Dropbears, and it's like I can't watch. Well, one, my internet's bad, as I said. I can't.
Yeah,
After all these over, I cannot. No, come on, just I
yeah.
hate this, dude. I hate
It's
this. I want to
absolutely.
watch it. Just give me a. Oh, okay.
I'll probably watch the semifinals at least, but this week in the background at some point. But it's still a lot of Overwatch to watch. And Jack,
Let
speaking
me
of a
ask you
lot of
something.
Overwatch to watch,
Would you
that's
want to
a
watch
tongue
a
twister.
tournament like after Contenders is over, right? Would you want to watch a tournament of champions?
Of the Overwatch Contenders Champions. Yeah, like a small league between
It's
the
seven.
end of Overwatch League and
It's 7 teams. It's 7 leagues.
yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, okay, we've got this path to pro. We've got these champions, and the only ones we got to see were North America and EU. So the regions that are already big, right?
Honestly, Jax, I would prefer. I know this is not going to happen because nations, whatever, but I would prefer that the Overwatch World Cup be like a short tournament of the top regional teams from the contenders. But
I mean,
that's
there
just
was a
me.
Reddit post where
Not
somebody
going
was
to be that big of a
asking.
deal.
There was a Reddit post. Somebody was asking, should we ban Overwatch League players from playing in the World Cup?
I mean, these are questions. Like, I don't know how it is for every other sport, but for instance, in Olympics for hockey, they've gone back and forward on banning NHL pros from playing in Olympic hockey, and same in soccer too, I believe, right? So
I think there's a limit to how many. I think they want under 23. They limit it some kind of way. Um, it's just something to think about where Overwatch League players are. I would say yes, and then I look at someone like Numlock, right, who is in Overwatch League, but you don't really know it. Or let's just take a well-known name, right? A well-known streamer, San Francisco Shock player IDDQD Levelos, and we haven't seen him, and I highly doubt we will see him. Um, do
yeah,
we take him? Would we? Do you feel comfortable like banning him from playing, even though he does? I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a big stage being there at BlizzCon and being the Overwatch World Cup that I kind of want to see the people we don't normally get to see. Like there's so many players who just don't know, right? And even though you and I might watch contenders, very few people do. And this could be a big chance for them to get their name out there.
yeah, and I mean, it's one of these endemic things, right? Where if you allow pro players in, you're just only going to get pro players, and we're just going to watch more pro v pro, and you're never going
Yeah.
to see anyone else really step up. And you know, I guess there's sometimes something for it. I mean, like if you watch World Cup soccer or European Cup, you watch because they have a lot of big names
Yeah.
going there. So that draws a bigger crowd. And honestly, when you're trying to grow the esport, that's what you're going to do. So the answer is no. You're not going to ban Overwatch League players from playing the World Cup. That they're still going to play that. I think Overwatch World Cup will still do incredible this year, if not better than previous years, because of Overwatch League, and people's latent interest in nationalism, I guess, to an extent. Like,
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it shows that there is a regional market that can be tapped, and I don't think the Overwatch League has done that well with their cities, but it has clearly has tapped into the nationality thing when they've hosted in the past. So I think we're going to see that in the future. Let us move on to discuss our predictions, though, for Stage 4, Week 2, Overwatch League. Starting with Boston Uprising taking on Dallas Fuel. Jax, I want to start this one off and just say, why would I choose the Fuel? I'm clearly choosing Uprising here.
Wait. So,
Jax having second thoughts on
here's the
this one
deal.
right off the start.
Like, here's the problem. Boston is really bad right now.
Like Fuel bad though? Like Fuel bad? Feels bad?
Fuel beat. Okay, they beat up on Shanghai, and then they got beat by the Gladiators 4-0. They put up a really good fight against The Los Angeles Gladiators. That
In Arrow, okay? So actually, you know what? I'm going to break this down into this question then, Jax. Arrow for the fuel. Do you think his coaching will have an impact by this point in time, better than the loss of Krusty from Boston Uprising will drag on their team?
Okay, here's the deal. You can ridicule me later, Lepolos. I'm gonna take the Dallas Fuel.
Listen, anytime you pick something and I pick something different, I feel like I'm usually wrong. So
I went against
now I'm
Boston
considering
both
myself
times last week because something in my gut was telling me I don't like this team. I still don't like this team. I'm looking at these maps here, and remember, part of the reasons why I said I don't like Boston, well, one was the coaching, but two is that Striker loses value here. And I'm looking at Blizzard World, Horizon Lunar Colony, Oasis, and Watchpoint. Those three of those four maps are, and part of Watchpoint as well, are baguette friendly maps. And Dallas has shown that they're willing to break out the baguette. And Boston has not shown that they're ready yet. And Boston has not shown me that they're ready for this meta yet. And with you add in the coaching situation and me liking what Arrow did with the Fusion University team and the performance that they came out with, and him having more time now with this team, a full week with the team now. This will be my olive branch to the Dallas Fuel. So
wow. That's faith I don't have. As I said, I'm sticking with the Uprising. I don't think they're ready.
You picked them last week and they lost twice.
They did, and they've done that to me in the past too. But here, I don't think that's going to be the case against the Fuel. Jax,
who's going to carry? Okay, who's going to carry?
They don't need a carry. They don't need a carry against the Fuel. I'm going to say that too.
Okay.
Fuel needs Effect to carry them. He's not around for this stage because he has to take care of himself, honestly, and I think that's good for him.
It's actually good that Effect isn't around because
it's good for them to.
They would feel forced to play him, and while Effect is a fantastic player, I don't know.
We got to move on though, Jax. Mayhem versus Valiant. Who's your pick here?
Valiant.
Yeah, I'm Valiant too. I don't think it's worth going into other than say Florida Mayhem are bombing as much as their symbol are.
Kings Row, Hanamura, and Watchpoint, Widow-friendly maps. What can Saya player do? And here's the thing though. Keep in mind what I just told you that
they still lost with him going off.
I mean, when it comes to the Widow, and the problem is, if Florida had even once shown us the ability to play off of his Widowmaker and what he can do, I would be picking Florida because three of the maps here, Kings Row, Hanamura, and Watchpoint, are very, very Widow friendly, and Saya player is going to roast Soon, who had a terrible week on stage one, week one. Sorry, stage one, week one last week. Soon was terrible at Widow, and Saya player was Saya player, and I expect Saya player to just take a crap all over Soon, but Florida has not shown that they know how to take advantage of that, so I take the value.
All right, and speaking of Widow, you just mentioned it. Do you think will come into play in match 3, Outlaws versus Gladiators? Jax,
this is so.
How are you feeling about this one?
Levelos, and now you look at this Houston versus Gladiators, I take you back to the playoff discussion, how both of these teams are trying to catch the Seoul Dynasty. So now you got these two teams cannibalizing each other, and so it's like, this is what we want to see. This is the matchup that we want to see. So Seoul, if you're a Seoul Dynasty fan, you love that these two teams are facing each other here. They're both in your division in the Pacific, and they're both trying to catch you. That being said, I'm obviously going to pick the Gladiators.
Yeah, I figured you would.
Shields up, of course, shields up. Because no one is better than Fisher. And Fisher had an amazing week 1 of this stage with Reinhardt. This will come down to which Sure 4 shows up. If Sure 4, again, I take you back to what I said, Asher and Striker. Last stage, I said, Asher, I don't need you to beat him. I need you to contain him. Can Sure 4 contain Linkser?
Yeah.
That's what it'll come down to.
True. I'm going with Outlaws because I don't think they will. I don't think they will.
Okay, one is Kings Row, and the Outlaws have shown that Kings Row is one.
No Gibraltar either.
Their best map.
So Gladiators have a chance because there's no Gibraltar in.
Perfectly fine mix levels. If it wasn't the Gladiators, you know, perhaps I would be picking Houston. But yeah, okay. Shields up.
Jax, May 24th, we have that's day 2, London Spitfire taking on San Francisco Shock. I am going Shock here too. The Spitfire's been looking pretty bad for some time now.
Dude, what is this back-to-back crap again? This is horrible scheduling.
Okay, well, we're coming up to that one, Jax. Just give me a second here.
For both teams, what is this? What? I'm so no, Leplos. I'm sorry.
All right, let's get into it.
Florida
Announce the
and
game
Gladiators
first
playing
before you do
on
it.
Back-to-back days.
They are.
It's the first 2 games of the week. Why?
All right. Well, Gladiators taking on Florida. Jax.
Of course, I'm taking the Gladiators. Wait. Is this map pool correct? Is this not the exact same map pool? Oh no, it's Li Jiang in place of Oasis. So 3 out of the 4 maps are the same for the Gladiators. That is fantastic for their preparation for the week.
And Jax, listen, I forgot to mention in Florida's matchup against Philadelphia that they got a dominated performance by Fusion out on them on Oasis, where they did not get a single kill. Yeah, I'm not going with Florida, man. No, I'm not going to let that one go. I'm just going to mention that there.
Time that we wanted to adhere to.
Yeah, we're already over.
Because we don't have full coverage this week, but I had 2 notes. One, Shanghai not prepared for stage 4. The second one, Mayhem losing King of the Hill without getting a kill, 40-0. That is a disgrace.
Speaking of disgrace here, Jax.
And you do not show your face the entire week because you're that bad.
We're both picking Gladiators over. We're both picking Gladiators. We're both picking Gladiators over Florida Mayhem here. Fusion in next matchup going against Dragons. I think it's safe to say we're not picking Dragons. You've already said you're not. I am not picking Dragons. We're picking Fusion here for game 3 of day 2. Takes us on to day 3. Jax, go ahead, take us off on that.
This one, Boston is gonna have to win sooner or later. You see, sooner or later they're gonna have to win a game. Now, I took Dallas. It's just the Valiant.
You said are you seriously gonna pick Uprising versus Valiant and not against Dallas Fuel?
I've got reasons, but that is exactly what I'm going to do, Leplos.
Wow, I am surprised by that one, Jax. I am going with Valiant here. I feel like Valiant is going to edge this one out. This one I can see going 5, though, so it's going to be a close one, I suspect. Or one team's just going to completely not show up.
Last stage, I don't know if you remember me saying I wasn't sold on the Valiant. I'm still not sold on the Valiant. And like I said, Boston has to win, and I think this is the one they win. Yeah, I stick by it. I'm sticking by it. I'm sticking by it. Black Star prediction right there, Lepos.
That is right there. That is a Black Star prediction. Yeah, as I said, Valiant there. I believe we're going to be the same here. NYXL taking on Seoul Dynasty.
Okay.
NYXL much stronger than Dynasty.
Maps for Janus, Lepolos.
Going to be exactly 2 maps for Janus.
Does he win his 2 maps?
Yes, they're going to win every single map against Seoul Dynasty.
Horizon and Seoul Dynasty. They looked very bad on Horizon last week. Okay, no. Yeah, I concur with that. I'll take this should be 4-0 New York, really. Yeah,
I agree with that as well. This takes us into Shock versus Outlaws, Jax.
This is gonna be good, Lepolos.
Yeah,
this has game of the week potential.
It has potential. Absolutely has potential. It's a hard one to pick. I'm struggling with this one. I can. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna go with Houston because too many of these maps are Jake friendly. Blizzard World, Jake friendly. Horizon Lunar Colony, Jake friendly. Oasis, Jake friendly. Even Dorado, certain points. No, I have to go with Houston.
I actually have to go with Houston, not because of Jake friendly, but because I think Linkser is still hot right now, and I don't think Architect's going to make up for that.
I think Architect could meet. This could be very good, though. This is a test. For those of you who are San Francisco Shock fans, hopefully not the guy who screams every game, I don't like you.
Yeah.
But for other people, perhaps if the San Francisco Shock are your local team, like our like one of our viewers, Tosi Luck, San Francisco Shock is his local team there, Leplos. This could be a good test for them. You want to see where this team is at. This could be a very good test for them. I'm hoping it's a really good game. I really am.
Next game, day 4, entering my birthday actually on Saturday. Seoul Dynasty versus Spitfire. Yep.
This is
hard pick here. I think a little bit because both of these teams struggling.
It is, man. Like Um,
I'll start this one
wow.
off. I'm gonna say Dynasty doing. Listen, I'm sorry, Toasty. I'm picking against the Dynasty. I'm picking Spitfire to
He's a
come through
shot fan. It
here.
doesn't matter.
Gesture, the tank difference here, I think, going to be the major factor coming through for London Spitfire in this matchup against
I'm
Seoul
trying to think
Dynasty.
to myself, can Flair carry enough to boost this team? Um, wow. I don't think Birdring has a week as bad as he did, or a game as bad as he did, like he did against New York. Wow. I'll go London. Yeah. Wait a minute. So are we saying 0-4 start for Seoul Dynasty?
Hey, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying 0
Leplo,
4
wait,
start here.
time out. Lepelos, time out. Time out, man. Time out.
Yeah.
If this is correct, they lose that sixth spot to Houston or the Gladiators this week.
That's what I'm saying. That's why we go back to saying when you asked me if Seoul Dynasty loses their overall playoff spot, and I said yes. This is
Oh.
the week that can start that proof. Like NYXL, they're going to lose to London Spitfire. If they lose to them, that's what I'm suspecting will happen here. That's part of their slide out of the playoffs.
Ooh, this Dynasty fans, big games here for you and your two closest competitors. Uh, Shanghai versus New York Excelsior.
Not
Very
even a
next
pick.
game, Lepelos, New York. Again, we play the
Yeah,
Janus
both New
Mano
York.
game. 2 or more games for Janus here. I think they're content to run Janus on 2 maps.
2 maps. Yeah, it's clear that's been their
Actually,
pattern. I think it'll be 2 maps.
okay, no, yeah, I still take New York because well, it's Shanghai, and then ooh, this is
Fuel
interesting.
versus Fusion to end off the week.
Hmm.
I have to go with Fusion, Jax.
I'm gonna go with the Fusion.
There's
Well,
a
because
pathway
one,
for Fuel to win.
oh, definite. It's just
The
because
narrow path.
okay, Philly plays Shanghai, and while Shanghai has historically played Philly very close, I think they have pushed Philly to 5 2 out of the 3 times they've played, at least twice. They did it in stage 1, they did it last stage 3 as well. So I'm still thinking that Philly prepares for this Dallas game, and Chef Coach Heidi, this is a Saturday. She's gonna hit them with a good breakfast, solid. They're the last game, so the food will have time to digest before they even play. And Philadelphia Fusion. I will say that if Arrow can work his magic, the Dallas Fuel have the potential to play spoiler because their season is over, right?
Yeah.
And their players, though, Lepos, they're playing for their lives, their careers, because depending on how many expansion teams come out, they may not be picked up. I mean, I'm honest, I wouldn't go looking for a Dallas Fuel player next season. So they have to show something, and they're trying to make their money. And I think the Dallas Fuel can play spoiler for the rest of the stage against anybody. I think they can.
Yeah, they really have to pull together though, and it's a hard thing to pull together. I haven't seen it yet. I know you said they fought hard, and they did against
Lepelos,
Gladiators.
I had told you Dallas Fuel over Boston. Black Star prediction. Right there, my man. Right.
The
First game,
whole week is full.
Come Wednesday, before you do your planet side swap, you will have this result right here.
Yeah, no. Listen, I will have that right before I do my planet side streaming, which are during games 2 and 3 of that. But you know what? We're done our predictions for this week, and we're over time, of course, Jax. But that's how we do it here on the Overwatch Rundown. That's a regular thing. You know what? We do have a bit of a closeout, so while you guys have stuck around for all of the podcast tonight, I wanted to thank you. I also wanted to give a shout out to the gaming group, obviously, because we just celebrated 15 years with Merc Gaming Group, or Mercenaries, from PlanetSide 1, lasting through 2003 all the way to present day. So huge shout out for all the guys sticking it with us through all that time and joining us since. Yeah, it's not just PlanetSide, it's a bunch of other stuff. We're moving to other games too, but I needed to give us a shout out because as the host of the website and something we're both in, it's definitely worthwhile to do. But also, Jax, if anyone ever wants to tweet at us, we're at OW Rundown on Twitter. I'm at Leplos. He's at Jax_Blake. We have a Discord, so make sure you check that out in the description. And you can find us live on Sundays, hopefully Sundays, should Jack's connection stand. Sundays at 9 p.m. PST.
Little hiccup, so Spectrum knows that they're on the chopping block. They know.
Yeah, they do.
You know,
They do.
Yeah.
Twitch TV/Uploads for that. You'll also find us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast, I believe. You look that up, and also on YouTube. Yeah, /Uploads. So lots of ways to connect. Make sure you let us know how we're doing. Anything you'd like to see, like us to comment on, or anything that you'd like us to try, let us know. And we'll catch you guys again next week.
I'm telling you, man, you sleep on the fuel, dude. They're gonna burn bright in the Uprising. Well, it's gonna get crushed. So yeah.
All right, that's a good point to call it there. But yeah, no, listen. I'm not trying to discount the fuel. I'm just